A young provincial woman who had taken a job as a housemaid in Saudi Arabia received an astonishing offer: $7 million from a dashing prince in exchange for masquerading as his fiancée. Liviana, the eldest of 3 siblings and daughter of humble farmers, had completed high school 3 years prior. Unable to afford college, she assisted her parents by selling their harvested corn in town. She vividly recalls the day a certain woman, captivated by her beauty, inquired if she wished to work abroad as a domestic helper in Saudi Arabia. At the age of 18, Liviana excitedly confided in her parents her aspiration to escape poverty. In response, they mortgaged their farmland to cover her placement fee, and that was how Liviana found herself in a foreign land, trembling with nervous anticipation. Fortunately, she had read enough books to grasp some English. En route to her employer's residence, she marveled at the luxurious van, the most extravagant vehicle she had ever encountered. "We're here," announced the foreign driver. Liviana's eyes widened as she beheld a vast estate that transcended the grandeur of a mere mansion. It resembled a palace. "Are you sure?" she asked in disbelief, but the driver stepped out and opened the door for her. An older man dressed in formal attire and exuding seriousness greeted her. "Follow me," he said. She obediently trailed behind him, all the while pondering why she was still needed when the household seemed already staffed with uniformed servants. "Do you know how to speak Arabic?" he inquired. "No, sir," she replied. "Good. We need someone who doesn't understand Arabic, so that if any of the prince's family members speak to you, you won't be able to respond. You'll pose as the prince's fiancée for 2 weeks. Don't worry, you just need to pretend," he explained clearly, struggling with his English. "Wait, what?" Liviana said, her confusion mounting. "You came here to work as a housemaid." "That's right. In exchange, consider this. 6 or 7, nearly $7 million. Your life will change. We only need 1 month and time is short," he continued. Liviana fell silent. Millions of dollars? That would be enough to redeem her parents' farmland, fund her siblings' education, lift her parents from backbreaking labor, allow her to pursue her studies again, and even build a home. And it would only take 1 month. Convinced she could manage it, she declared resolutely, "All right, deal." The man promptly scribbled something on a piece of paper and handed it to her. It detailed only half of the total sum. Perhaps the remainder would be dispersed upon successful completion. "Wait," Liviana asked, "am I supposed to act like a princess or something?" "No," he replied. "Just be yourself. Follow me." With a playful wink, he led the way. They entered a room where Liviana braced herself to pose as the companion of some portly older Arab. She had expected him to resemble the Indian collector who had once handled her mother's debts back home, so she nearly toppled in surprise when a tall, muscular, fragrant, and unbelievably handsome Arab man appeared. "My goodness," Liviana whispered. He maintained a stern expression, his head adorned with a traditional cap whose name eluded her. Startled by the rich timbre of his voice, Liviana froze when he inquired, "Is she the girl?" The older man nodded. "Yes, Majesty," he replied. "Leave us." The older man departed, leaving Liviana and the prince alone, the air thick with tension. "You're mine now," he declared. "Sir?" she asked, puzzled. "Honey," he insisted. She paused, uncertain of his meaning. "If you're my fiancé, you should call me honey, not sir. And you need to relax. You're so tense. Loosen up," the handsome man urged. Liviana was rendered speechless, stunned by the turn of events. She had applied as a maid, yet now the prince was proclaiming her his fiancée. "You're like a frog, an Arab frog prince," she blurted out. Then he suddenly kissed her. "I'm sorry, I had to do that," he explained. "You're too stiff. I'm supposed to be your boyfriend, so act naturally." He then introduced himself. "My name is Hakim Rashad Al-Akil. You can call me Hakim Rashad Jr. if you prefer." He kissed her again. "Be ready in 1 hour," he instructed. When she offered no response, he added, "My father is arriving before dinner," before turning and leaving. Soon, several maids entered to dress Liviana. She could hardly believe how she managed to get through that dinner. If her parents had seen her, they might have fainted. Contrary to her fears, however, Hakim's family proved to be remarkably kind. What she had dreaded would be a nightmare turned out to be a beautiful dream. Even the seemingly aloof young man had a good heart. According to the servants, he was known as a playboy, and his father had threatened to disinherit him if he didn't settle down and produce an heir. Hakim, feeling the constant pressure of being compared to his well-behaved older brother, destined to be the next king, became frightened. Days passed swiftly, and Liviana found herself falling for the prince. Deep down, she felt it was impossible for him to reciprocate her feelings. The chasm between their worlds seemed too vast. "How do you say beautiful in Tagalog?" Hakim asked one evening, smiling as they chatted after dinner. Although they were in his room, Liviana slept in a separate chamber so as not to arouse suspicion about their intimate arrangement. "Mandaka," she replied, recalling what she had learned. "Mandaka, then," he repeated. "Thank you," she said with a grin. "Wait, why did you say thank you? I was merely asking for the translation of beautiful." "I never said you were beautiful," he teased. "Oh, hush," Liviana chided playfully, feigning annoyance. Hakim smiled warmly, gently cupping her cheeks as he gazed into her eyes. "I'm kidding. You truly are beautiful, Liviana," he murmured. He slowly leaned closer until their lips met. The kiss began tenderly but soon deepened into a passionate embrace. She barely noticed when he guided her under the bed, then stepped away briefly to lock the door and turn off the lights. Returning to her side, he kissed her neck and then moved down to her chest. "Habibi," he whispered. In that moment, Liviana felt as if she were floating. She had never imagined that the romance of the novels she once read could feel so real, and now she was experiencing something even more profound. Shortly thereafter, their bodies came together. Overwhelmed, Liviana wept. It was her first time, and she distinctly heard him mutter a curse when he encountered resistance. Then, tenderly, he kissed the tears from her eyes. "Ana, a hobuki habibti," he murmured. She longed to ask what his words meant, but the torrent of sensations persuaded her to postpone her inquiry. When they had finished, he drew her close, and before she knew it, sleep claimed her in his embrace. The next morning, Liviana awoke with a smile, only to find that Hakim was no longer by her side. Slipping into his shirt, she stepped out and soon heard his voice. She hesitated to approach, but then froze upon realizing he was speaking with another woman. Who is she, and what is her connection to Hakim, she wondered silently. Although not one to eavesdrop, she couldn't help but catch the tail end of their conversation as Hakim's voice drifted through the hallway. "See you later, baby," he said over the phone, to which the woman replied affectionately, "I love you," a sentiment Hakim did not acknowledge. A sharp pain struck Liviana's heart. "No, don't let it break you," she scolded herself. Maybe she's just his cousin. After taking a shower, each touch of her skin conjuring vivid memories of the night before, she deliberately chose an outfit that was a touch more alluring, hoping to catch his eye. But as she descended the mansion's grand staircase, she saw him rushing out, flanked by bodyguards. "What a waste of perfume and primping," Liviana muttered under her breath. Seeking distraction, she turned her attention to the new clothes and jewelry bestowed upon her by Hakim's family. The lavish outfits and expensive gems left her feeling like a princess. "Wow, just this single ring must be worth thousands. Back home, my parents wouldn't believe me. They'd think I was dreaming," she exclaimed. Her eyes then fell upon a brand new phone resting on the bedside table. "Who would have thought my old Cherry Mobile would be replaced by something this luxurious," she murmured, fiddling with it as she lounged on the bed. "I wonder what Hakim's number is. This phone's completely empty. Maybe I'll check Facebook." She typed in his name, only to be met with fake profiles or random users. "He's so complicated, I can't even track him down. Perhaps I'll try Google," she decided. A search for the prince's name yielded multiple images of him alongside famous women rumored to be linked to him. Yet one photograph stood apart. Hakim was with an extraordinarily beautiful woman, holding her hand as he pressed his lips to her forehead. She looked angelic. Liviana's heart twisted with jealousy. In comparison, she felt insignificant. Her complexion, features, and social standing paled next to the flawless woman. The growing ache in her heart was unbearable, and before she knew it, she drifted off to sleep. A knock on the door roused her. "Madam, it's time for dinner," called Ana, a fellow Filipino. "Oh, Atebelin, please don't call me madam, it's embarrassing," Liviana pleaded. "But you really are a madam now, Liviana. You'd better get used to it," Ana teased with a smile. "It's already evening. Has Hakim come home yet?" Shortly afterward, their bodies entwined. Overcome with emotion, Liviana shed tears. Her first time had been marked by a whispered curse when he encountered resistance. Then he gently wiped away her tears with a kiss. "Ana, ahabuki habibti," he murmured. She longed to ask the meaning of his words, but the overwhelming sensations urged her to wait. When they were finished, he drew her into his arms, and sleep claimed her before she even realized it. The next morning, Liviana awoke with a smile, only to find that Hamid was no longer by her side. Slipping into his shirt, she ventured out and soon heard his voice. Eager to approach, she hesitated, as she realized he was speaking with another woman. Who is she, and what is her connection to Hamid, she wondered silently. Although it was not in her nature to eavesdrop, she couldn't help but catch the final words of his conversation over the phone. "See you later, baby," he said. The woman replied tenderly, "I love you," a sentiment to which Hamid offered no response. A sharp pain pierced Liviana's heart. "No, don't let it get to you," she chided herself. Maybe she's just his cousin. After a soothing shower, each touch of her skin rekindling vivid memories of the previous night, she deliberately chose a slightly seductive outfit, hoping to capture his attention. But as she descended the mansion's grand staircase, she saw him hurrying out, flanked by bodyguards. "What a waste of perfume and primping," she muttered under her breath. Seeking distraction, she turned her attention to the new clothes and jewelry that Hamid's family had bestowed upon her. The lavish outfits and glittering gems made her feel like a princess. "Wow, this single ring alone must be worth thousands. Back home my parents would never believe it. They'd think I was dreaming," she exclaimed. Her gaze then fell upon a brand new phone resting on the bedside table. "Who would have thought my old Cherry Mobile would be replaced by something so luxurious," she murmured, fiddling with it as she lounged on the bed. "I wonder what Hamid's number is. This phone is completely empty. Maybe I'll check Facebook." Typing in his name, she was met with only fake profiles or random users. "He's so complicated, I can't even find him. Perhaps I'll try Google," she decided. A search for the prince's name yielded numerous images of him with famous women rumored to be in his life. Yet one photo stood out. Hamid, holding the hand of an incredibly beautiful woman as he pressed his lips to her forehead. She looked angelic. Liviana's heart twisted with jealousy. In comparison, she felt insignificant. Her complexion, features, and social standing diminished by the flawless beauty of this mysterious woman. The pain grew until, overwhelmed, she fell asleep. A knock on the door roused her. "Madame, it's time for dinner," called Ana, a fellow Filipino. "Oh, Ate Boline, please don't call me madam, it's embarrassing," Liviana pleaded. "But you really are a madam now, Liviana. You'd better get used to it," Ana teased with a smile. "It's already evening. Has Hamid come home yet?" "Hopefully, madame. Sir, Hamid might not be coming back. That's his routine. Sometimes he travels without warning, going abroad for quick errands," Ana explained. Liviana couldn't conceal her disappointment. "Don't worry, Liviana," Ana said kindly. "He'll be back. You're the lady of the house, so don't fret. The crown is yours." At the dinner table, Liviana felt awkward dining alone at a long table laden with food. Her appetite waned until she devised an idea. She invited the maids to join her. Though they initially hesitated, her insistence transformed the meal into a lively, enjoyable affair. After dinner, she went to Hamid's bedroom to wait for him. The room bore the marks of long familiarity. Transformers figurines neatly arranged in a large cabinet hinted that it had been his sanctuary since childhood. "What luck I have," she mused. "I'm a farmer's daughter from the Philippines, now living in a palace like a princess. What did I do to deserve such blessings?" Suddenly, the door swung open as Hamid's bodyguards entered, carrying him, unconscious from drinking. "What happened?" Liviana asked in alarm. "Prince Hamid met with a friend and got upset, so he drank too much," Madam, one bodyguard explained. "Just lay him down. I'll look after him," Liviana instructed. After they left, she gathered what she needed to clean him up and change his clothes. With careful fingers, she unbuttoned his polo shirt, marveling at his chiseled torso. Nervous yet oddly excited, she slowly unzipped his pants and tugged them off. So heavy was he that she tumbled onto him. Eventually, she finished changing him. She lay beside him, gazing at his angelic face. "You truly are handsome, my prince," she murmured. Then she felt his arm slip around her waist from beneath the blanket. Trusting him, she allowed it, yet soon his hand began to wander upward, slipping beneath her top. He started kissing her. Initially gentle, then with increasing passion as his kisses trailed down her neck and chest. Liviana's breath came in shaky gasps. Abruptly, he paused and fixed his gaze intently upon her face. She smiled, and he whispered, "Your smile is so sweet, baby." Then he kissed her once more, holding her tight as he murmured, "I don't know if I can do this without you, Hania." Liviana was stunned by that name. Pushing him away, she fled the room in tears. Who was Hania and what did she mean to the prince? Confusion and heartbreak overwhelmed her as she cried, feeling manipulated. As if he were using her. Clutching her phone, she revisited the photo of Hamid with the stunning woman. Clicking on it, she read a blog post about the image, just as she had feared. The mysterious woman in the photo was none other than Hania. Hania hailed from one of the wealthiest families in the country and had been close to Hamid's family since childhood. They had grown up together, and their families had once planned a marriage between them. However, Hania had longed to study fashion design abroad and had no immediate plans for marriage. Despite this, they had remained a couple despite the distance. Under intense pressure from his family to marry, Hamid had proposed to her, only to be turned down. Devastated by heartbreak, he eventually yielded to his father's demands. His father had threatened to withhold his inheritance if he didn't wed before turning 30. With only a few months remaining, he reluctantly agreed to marry Liviana. Now that she realized Hamid didn't love her at all, Liviana felt utterly hollow. He had already taken everything from her, she had sold herself, so how could she possibly complain? What would her parents say about her foolishness? Who in their right mind would believe that a prince could truly fall for a mere farmer's daughter? "Stop whining, Liviana," she chided herself. "You sold yourself to these people. You have no right to protest." Overwhelmed by despair, she cried herself to sleep. She awoke to the gentle warmth of lips on her cheek. Startled, she opened her eyes to see Hamid so near. "Baby, what happened to your eyes? Did you cry?" he asked, noticing their swollen state. "I just couldn't sleep and, don't call me baby, I'm not a baby," she retorted sharply. Though he attempted a playful remark, she stormed off straight to the bathroom, locking the door and letting him knock until he eventually gave up. After bathing and dressing, she emerged to find him gone, a loss that stung, yet she tried to dismiss the pain. Following a solitary breakfast, she sought solace by the pool. Later, returning to her room, she retrieved her sexiest, brightest bikini, determined to provoke him. Entering his room with a bottle of sunscreen in hand, she playfully tossed it at him. He caught it and beckoned her to sit on his lap. Gently, he applied sunscreen on her back and all the way down to her butt, savoring the feel of her porcelain skin. As she turned around, wrapping her legs around his, their bodies pressed together. Just as he leaned in to kiss her shoulder, she abruptly stood, grabbed her cover-up, and walked out, leaving him staring in disbelief. "So, I'm not the only one who can leave," Liviana mused to herself as she headed outside for a swim. Moments later, Hamid emerged in swim trunks, every inch the model, with chiseled abs and an undeniable allure. "Hey, lady, you're drooling," he teased, tossing her a small towel. "Wipe it off," he laughed. Inwardly, she branded him arrogant. They frolicked in the water, playfully teasing each other, unaware that Hamid's parents observed them from the second-floor terrace. "I told you she was the right choice for our son," his father remarked, clearly satisfied. "I still prefer Hania," his mother muttered. "I know our son, he'll only hurt Liviana." "Because he's so in love with Hania, let's just give them time, my love," his father replied. Later, Liviana returned upstairs to shower in Hamid's room, inadvertently leaving the door unlocked. As she soaped herself, he entered quietly. At first, she did not notice him, allowing him to watch her silhouette. Then, he stepped forward, gently grasping her waist and kissing his way down her shoulders and along her back, ever lower, though never crossing the line. Unable to contain her emotions any longer, Liviana cupped his face and demanded, "Who is Hania?" "Hania?" he repeated nervously. "She's just a friend," he finally offered. "Just a friend, nothing more?" Liviana pressed. He hesitated. "Come on, tell me honestly, I can accept the truth." "I don't like secrets or lies," she said, her eyes welling with tears. "All right, but first, wipe your tears." I can't stand seeing a woman cry over me. He gently brushed them away. Hania is very special. We grew up together. We laughed and cried together and even promised to marry. But then she let go, choosing her dreams and independence over our future, and I respected that. We ended things, yet I'm willing to let go of the past and give you a chance to make me fall in love all over again. He kissed her softly, and with tears glistening in her eyes, Liviana returned his kiss. Their embrace deepened under the warm cascade of water. Afterwards, they dried off and dressed. We have dinner with my cousins and aunts to announce our wedding date, Hamid announced. Liviana fussed over what to wear, eager to win over his relatives. You'd still be gorgeous even without all that primping, he teased, making her blush. She chose a simple yet flattering royal blue dress. Although she stood 5'8", she felt diminutive next to Hamid's tall cousins. Yet she persevered. Guiding her down the grand staircase, Hamid's striking cousins greeted them with a raucous welcome, as if he had just won the lottery. Liviana's palms turned cold with nerves. They're just my cousins. Don't be afraid. They're a friendly bunch, Hamid whispered, sensing her anxiety. Taking a deep breath, she repeated a silent "A," and forced a bright smile. One by one, his female cousins embraced her, kissing her cheek and welcoming her warmly. They then moved to the mansion's veranda for dinner. Liviana was dazzled by the lavish decor, sparkling lights, and uniformed waiters. This was no ordinary meal. Even though many of Hamid's relatives knew she was from the Philippines, they welcomed her as though she truly belonged. After dinner, a small celebration followed, with singing and dancing. Though her feet ached in high heels, she barely ate, feeling shy as she sat quietly on the side. Then an odd sensation crept over her, a feeling of being watched. Scanning the area, she spotted a tall silhouette lurking in the shadows. Curious, she moved closer to investigate, only to realize it was one of Hamid's female cousins. "Raya," a voice called as Raya pulled her back. "Hey, come join us. Where are you off to?" "I saw someone over there," Liviana explained, gesturing toward the darkened corner. "Oh, that's Sammy. Don't mind him. He prefers his solitude," Raya remarked with a smirk. "Sammy? You mean Hamid's older brother?" Liviana asked. Raya nodded. Before Liviana could probe further, Hamid took her arm. "Hey, sis, stop interrogating her," he chided playfully. Then, turning to Liviana with a wink, he added, "Time to have some fun upstairs." Raya rolled her eyes and shook her head, but allowed them to head inside. Resonado sobre relaciones complicadas y emociones tronjailat. Someone blocked their path. Hania, clad in a tiny outfit that showcased her long, fair legs, her hair gleamed and her face radiated with meticulously applied makeup. "Oh, sorry," she said dramatically. "So you must be the lucky girl." She planted a kiss on Liviana's cheek. "I'm Hania, Hamid's childhood friend," she introduced herself. "Hi, I'm Liviana, Hamid's future wife," Liviana replied, a bit awkwardly. Hania smiled and turned toward Hamid, angling in for a kiss. He pulled away. "Come on, babe, let's go upstairs," he told Liviana. Assuming she was the one being called, Hania chimed in, "What, me? Great, let's go," only to be cut off. "No, not you," Hamid said bluntly. "I'm talking to my girl." Clasping Liviana's hand, he led her away, leaving Hania behind, a trace of embarrassment in her smile. Once in their bedroom, Liviana surprised Hamid by pulling him in for a kiss, something she had never initiated before. "Oh ho, you're wild," he teased. "Sorry, I'm just so happy and flattered," she admitted. "You deserve to be happy," he murmured sweetly, planting a kiss on her forehead. "But babe, I have to grab my phone from the veranda. I left it on the table." With that, he hurried out. Liviana pouted in annoyance. "He could have sent a bodyguard for it," she grumbled, suspecting he simply wanted another glimpse of Hania. She sprawled on the bed, drumming her feet in boredom. Eventually, she decided to change her mood by slipping into a sexy nightgown borrowed from one of Hamid's cousins, then reclined once more. Growing restless, she tiptoed downstairs. The mansion had quieted, guests either drunkenly murmuring or fast asleep. She crept into the kitchen where a few maids were tidying up. "Madam, you're still up. Are you hungry? Would you like some food?" Hania offered kindly. Yes, ete Berlin, please. I really miss home-cooked meals, Liviana replied, then added with a hint of determination, but I'll cook something myself. After whipping up a quick meal and devouring it, she felt a bit revived. She then ventured out to the mansion's garden to enjoy the cool breeze. The crisp air soothed her, yet she couldn't shake the feeling of being watched. In the distance, she spotted two silhouettes on a swing beneath a tree, locked in an intimate kiss. Curious, she moved closer and realized it was Hania and Sammy, Hamid's older brother. They were so absorbed in each other that they didn't notice Liviana quietly seating herself on a nearby bench. Suddenly, a figure charged toward the couple. Hamid grabbed Sammy's shirt collar. At last, Sammy shouted, "This won't be a secret anymore. At least you'll know. You betrayed me." Hamid roared at Hania, pointing an accusing finger. "Baby, let me explain." "Hania?" the woman pleaded, but Hamid stormed away, leaving behind his brother, Hania, and a stunned Liviana who barely managed to stand. What do I do now, she thought, overwhelmed and unsure how to react. Backing away quietly in her skimpy nightgown, she didn't want to be branded a busybody. Yet, as she tried to retreat, Sammy called out, "I know you're there. Walk normally next time. And for heaven's sake, wear something decent. You look like you just stepped out of an adult film." Mortified, Liviana crossed her arms and dashed inside, determined to find Hamid. However, he was nowhere to be found. Eventually, she noticed a gold door near his room and, hoping he might be inside, tried it. To her relief, she found him in a private bar filled with expensive liquor, guzzling hard drinks. She approached and sat beside him, but he snapped at her to leave. "Don't keep your pain bottled up," she urged softly. "I know how you feel. Talk to me. You can cry on my shoulder if you need to." Slowly, Hamid's anger melted away as tears began to trickle down his face. "My brother was the one person I trusted most in this world. I never doubted him," he said, anguished. "Everything happens for a reason. Maybe they're meant for each other. And as for you, maybe you were the one God used so they could find their way to each other. I didn't deserve this from them. I trusted them," he whispered, burying his face in his hands. "If you truly want to forget Hania, you have to learn forgiveness," Liviana replied, holding his hand. "I'll do everything I can to help you let go of the past and love me. Just know that I'm here for you." They talked for a long while, with Liviana quietly listening as he recounted his story with Hania. By the time he had become tipsy, she helped him upstairs, and they eventually fell asleep together. In the morning, Liviana awoke alone. Moments later, Hamid reappeared with a breakfast tray. "Good morning, babe. Breakfast in bed to make it up to you," he said. Liviana teased that it felt like she were a princess, and his laughter warmed her heart. After their meal, he took her to a bridal boutique to select a gown for their wedding. Rows of luxurious dresses dazzled her, the kind typically reserved for princesses and celebrities. As she browsed, the office door swung open, and out came Hania. "Oh dear, I thought you'd cancel after last night," Hania remarked to Hamid. "No," he replied sternly. "I'm a professional. Besides, my fiancé deserves nothing but the best." He tightened his grip on Liviana's hand, kissing it protectively. Liviana felt giddy with both love and a twinge of apprehension. Her eyes widened when she saw the price tag on a particular gown. "It costs around 6 million pesos, enough to buy a house and lot back home." "What's wrong, babe?" Hamid asked, noticing her pale expression. "Just buy a gown in the Philippines. That price could buy you a home," Liviana said, feeling embarrassed. "Don't worry," Hamid insisted. "I'll pay for it. Just pick the gown you love." So she tried one on. Even Hania admitted that Liviana looked stunning in it. While Liviana continued sampling dresses, Hania asked Hamid if they could speak privately in her office. Though it pained her, Liviana allowed them some privacy. After finishing her selection, anxiety gripped Liviana as she wondered how long they had been talking. Unable to contain her curiosity, she gently knocked on the slightly ajar office door and froze at the sight before her. Hania, sitting on Hamid's lap, kissing him passionately. Horrified, Liviana backed away, accidentally slamming the door and startling them both. "I'm sorry," she said bitterly. "I didn't mean to disturb you." No, babe, it's not what you think," Hamid insisted, pushing Hania off. But Liviana's tears began to flow, and she ran out, with one of Hamid's bodyguards in pursuit. She ran aimlessly until she collapsed on a bench, sobbing uncontrollably. The bodyguard caught up, grumbling, "Man, these ants are biting me," as he swatted at the tiny intruders. "Shocking, Liviana. You speak Filipino?" he remarked, noticing her tear-streaked face, then gently helped brush the ants away. "I was in such a mood, and here you are with ants," she replied through her tears. He offered a sad smile and apologized, and they soon introduced themselves properly. His name was Emiliana from Quezon Province. He explained that he had been fired from a construction job under false accusations, but Hamid's family had rescued him from prison by hiring him as a bodyguard. Relieved to meet another Filipino, Liviana confided her frustrations. They talked about life until it was time to head back. In the car, she dozed off, and when they arrived, Emiliana carried her, princess style, into Hamid's room, where Hamid waited, worry etched on his face. Hamid felt a twinge of jealousy watching Emiliana hold Liviana that way, and warned himself that next time, he should be the one to carry her. A new day dawned, and Liviana woke with a headache from the stress and lingering wine. She called her parents, who proudly shared news of the reclaimed land title she had managed to pay off with the money she'd sent them. They had even purchased additional farmland and enrolled her siblings in college. Liviana felt relieved that her parents still believed she was merely a simple domestic helper. After the call, Emiliana knocked, reminding her to eat lunch before they set off. "Where are we going, and will Hamid be coming?" she asked. Emiliana replied, "No, Hamid told me to take you somewhere." It turned out that Hamid had arranged for a visit to a spa so she could unwind. Though Liviana protested that she didn't need any fancy treatment, the staff persuaded her otherwise. They massaged, scrubbed, and pampered her until evening fell. Finally, they dressed her in a yellow floral dress and showed her the mirror. She hardly recognized herself. Her hair now had soft curls and subtle makeup that brightened her features, a transformation far removed from her usual look back home. When Emiliana saw her, he joked, "Ma'am, you look incredible. Hamid's going to regret everything." Liviana snorted but couldn't help appreciating the compliment. They set off in a car, and Liviana dozed off again. When she finally awoke, her arms ached and chaos surrounded her, voices arguing in Arabic. She realized to her horror that she was blindfolded. Panicked, she screamed, "Where am I?" The men only laughed, too busy chattering among themselves to answer. "When my fiancé finds out you're dead," one of them threatened. "He'll be the one to die first," another countered. Desperation turned to tears as Liviana pleaded that she had no money. But one man replied, "We don't need money, honey," as he brazenly touched her leg. Terrified, she felt him begin to undo the wrap of her dress. She struggled wildly, but her hands and feet were bound. In that dreadful moment, she realized she had been kidnapped. No wonder the driver earlier had seemed unfamiliar. She was on the verge of being assaulted. The attacker managed to kiss her neck and reach for her bra when suddenly the door was kicked open. Within moments, her captors were subdued and handcuffed, while her blindfold and ropes were removed. In the light, she saw that the men, though strikingly handsome, were unmistakably criminals, all pinned to the ground or with their hands behind their backs. Emilia was present, but Hamid was nowhere to be seen, a realization that stabbed at her heart. Perhaps the kidnappers had been right. She wasn't important to him after all. The kidnappers were taken away to the police station, and Liviana was returned to the mansion. There the maids dressed her in a wedding gown, did her hair and makeup, and guided her outside, leaving her near the entrance, dazed and confused. She followed a pathway strewn with flower petals until she spotted Hamid waiting at a table on the elegantly lit veranda. He rushed over and embraced her. "I thought I'd lost you," he whispered, gently cupping her face. Then he knelt before her. Liviana nearly fainted. A proposal was every girl's dream. Part of her wanted to shout yes immediately, yet she hesitated, her heart pounding. "I know every woman dreams of this," Hamid began, "and you deserve it. Even though I haven't completely fallen for you yet, I want to do this. Will you marry me?" The admission that his love was not yet complete gave her pause, but she couldn't bear to let the moment slip away. With a trembling smile, she answered, "Yes." He stood, slipped a ring onto her finger, and then his parents emerged from behind her to offer their congratulations. Overwhelmed with happiness, Liviana couldn't shake the nagging thought of the true reason behind Hamid's grand gesture. He had orchestrated it all so he could inherit early. Deep down, he still loved Hania. His plan was to expand his business, free himself from his parents' control, and eventually convince Hania to marry him. What would become of Liviana? Would she find lasting happiness or end up broken-hearted? As days passed, his parents remained delighted by Hamid's apparent devotion, completely unaware that he still pined for Hania. One night, Liviana drifted off with Hamid beside her. By morning, he was gone. It was just another lonely day in the mansion as he immersed himself in his new venture. Growing increasingly anxious over the lack of direct contact, she didn't even have his phone number or social media handle, she resolved to ask Sammy for his details. After bathing and dressing, she knocked on Khalif's door. It swung open before she could knock, revealing a minimalist, mostly white room reminiscent of a hotel suite. Sammy was in the shower. She could hear water running but saw no sign of him. So she sat on the sofa, idly playing a game on her phone. Finally, he emerged clad only in a towel, water dripping through his hair and down his chest. Well-built and confident, he caught her gaze before she stammered, "I just wanted Hamid's phone number and social media info." Flustered, she apologized for intruding. "No problem," he replied with a teasing smile. "But are you planning to watch me get dressed?" Startled, she quickly rose, insisting that she leave him to change. A few minutes later, he reappeared shirtless and nearly knocked her over in the doorway, catching her in his arms. The fresh scent of his aftershave and the feel of his firm body made her acutely aware of his presence. Regaining her composure, she mumbled a few excuses, and he teased her about not having a direct way to contact her own fiancé. She explained that it was a new phone with no contacts saved yet. Sammy then typed in Hamid's number, draping an arm around her shoulder, and invited her to breakfast. They shared a meal and swapped childhood stories until Hania and Hamid arrived in the kitchen. Hania smirked, suggesting they join her as if it were her own place. Sammy, ever the gracious host, pulled out chairs to invite them, but Hamid insisted on having Hania sit beside him. Then Hania promptly chose the seat next to Liviana. The meal carried an undercurrent of tension. When a maid brought out a bowl of fruit, the ripe aroma of mangoes made Liviana queasy. Battling her discomfort, she finally bolted for the sink and vomited everything she'd just eaten. Sammy immediately rushed to rub her back, and in that moment, she noticed the genuine concern in his eyes. Unlike Hamid, who remained engrossed in conversation with Hania, steeling herself, she returned to the table only to see Hamid and Hania laughing together, a pang of hurt twisting in her stomach. "Babe, can you take me up to our room? I'm not feeling well," she said sweetly, her first time calling him babe. He regarded her curiously. Although Hania tried to remind him of their business meeting, Hamid insisted it could wait because Liviana wasn't well. Liviana sensed he agreed only because his parents had just appeared. Still, he led her upstairs. Once there, he reached out to help her into bed, but she jerked away. "Go back to your, baby. She's probably waiting," Liviana said icily. "No, I'll stay. Let me help you," he insisted. Relenting, she allowed him to gently lay her down and pull a blanket over her. Before leaving, he teased, "I like it when you call me babe, so keep doing that." She felt a flicker of happiness, but soon doubts began to gnaw at her. Realizing they hadn't bothered with birth control, the possibility of pregnancy loomed large. The next morning, she asked Emiliana to run an errand for her. Locking herself in the bathroom with a pregnancy test, her trembling hands counted 5 agonizing minutes. When the result appeared, tears streamed down her cheeks, tears whose meaning she couldn't yet discern. Were they of joy or regret? Liviana felt a mix of elation at the thought of having a child with the man she loved and dread over her family's reaction. How could she possibly explain her situation to them? Gently cradling her abdomen, she whispered through tears and laughter, promising her unborn child, "No matter what happens, I will protect you. Hang in there, baby. Mommy can handle this." Stepping outside, she was startled to find Sammy waiting instead of Emiliana. Before she could hide the test, Sammy spotted it. "What's that?" he asked. Then his tone shifted as he fired off questions. "Don't tell me. You. Wait. Does Hamid know about this?" "Yes, I think I'm pregnant and Hamid has no idea. Please, don't tell him." I want to be sure first, and I'd like to surprise him, she replied. Let me drive you to our private doctor, Sammy said seriously before leaving the room. Excited yet nervous, Liviana dressed quickly and headed to the garage. She climbed into the car, taking the passenger seat next to Sammy, while Emiliana drove. They arrived at the doctor Sammy had recommended, and after an examination, the female doctor announced, "Congratulations, Sammy. Your girlfriend is 2 weeks pregnant. Remember, you must take good care of her." "Of course, doctor," Sammy replied curtly before turning to Liviana with a playful grin. "Come on, hun, let's go home and stock up on food for our baby," he joked. She laughed and playfully swatted his arm. As they returned to the mansion, Sammy became increasingly protective of Liviana. He even stopped at the mall so she could pick out any food she desired, hovering over her as if he were already the father of her child. "Don't spoil me too much, I might get used to it," she teased. "I'll take care of you. The baby you're carrying is my niece, after all. You can get used to it if you like," Sammy quipped with a playful wink. Oh. Later, while brainstorming with Liviana on the veranda about how to surprise Hamid with the news, Hamid suddenly appeared. "You two look good together," he remarked sarcastically. "We were just talking," Liviana muttered. "Talking about how you'll betray me? The way you did with Hania?" Hamid retorted with a smirk. "Stop the nonsense, Hamid," Sammy interrupted. "Don't be childish, especially when you're already capable of making your own child." "Yeah, whatever," Hamid snapped. "Will you stop meddling? It's obvious you want to take everything that's mine." He grabbed Liviana's arm as she sat, and her stomach bumped lightly against the table. She cried out, and Sammy's face contorted with fury. "Could you be more careful with her?" he barked. "No wonder people leave you. You don't know how to take care of them." "Oh, really, Sammy?" says the biggest traitor of them all. "I wouldn't have lost her if you hadn't interfered," Hamid shouted back. The tension soared, and feeling ill, Liviana decided she'd feel better by leaving with Sammy. She rose and positioned herself between them, leaning toward Sammy. "Let's go to the kitchen and eat," she suggested softly, hoping a meal would settle her nerves and her stomach. Sammy's expression softened and he followed her, while Hamid seethed with anger. "Fine," Hamid shouted. "If you're comfortable hanging around with the very person who betrayed me, go right ahead. I'll go find someone else." With that, he stormed out of the veranda. Overwhelmed by her pregnancy and the emotional turmoil, Liviana began to cry. Sammy quickly pulled her into a comforting hug. Neither of them noticed that Hamid had returned, and soon he saw them in each other's arms. Enraged, Hamid charged forward and punched Sammy. The two brothers tumbled onto the wide Bermuda grass outside, exchanging blows with no clear reason. In the melee, Liviana tried to step between them, and instead of Sammy being shoved aside, she was knocked off balance. A sharp cry of pain escaped her as she felt a searing pain in her lower back. Alarmed, Sammy shouted and rushed to her side. "Look what you've done!" he roared at Hamid. He helped Liviana to her feet, intending to bring her inside, but as she stood, blood began to run down her leg. Without hesitation, Sammy scooped her up in his arms and hurried her to the car while Hamid trailed behind silently, unsure of what to do. Still in a daze, Hamid eventually climbed into the car as well. "If anything happens to her, I swear you'll regret it," Sammy warned. Liviana wept uncontrollably, terrified at the thought of losing her baby, while Hamid stared in stunned silence throughout the drive to the hospital, his mind a jumbled mess. At the hospital, doctors rushed to examine Liviana. Finally, they emerged with an update. "She's all right now. You're very fortunate. Nothing happened to the child. Please stop doing things that could cause her stress." "By the way, who's the father?" the doctor inquired. Minutes ticked by, and Hamid said nothing. Finally, Sammy broke the silence, stammering, I am the father. Come to my office. I have something to discuss with you," the doctor instructed as he walked away. Sammy shot a sharp look at Hamid before following the doctor. When Sammy returned, Hamid was still standing in the corridor, racked with worry. He couldn't believe that Liviana might be carrying his baby. It threatened his carefully laid plans, and he wasn't sure he could accept it. "Are you just going to sit there?" Sammy asked, his tone edged with impatience. "No, Sammy, this can't be happening. I'm not ready to be a father," Hamid muttered, his voice heavy with despair. "You're unbelievable. There's nothing you can do but step up for your child," Sammy retorted. "No," Hamid said vehemently. "I will never do that," and he stalked away. Sammy returned to Liviana's hospital room just as she was waking. Alarmed, she opened her eyes. "What happened to my baby?" "Sammy, don't worry, she's fine, just rest," he replied. Yet Liviana's gaze darted around the room, as if searching for Hamid. "Does he know yet? Where is he?" Sammy hesitated. Then he received a call from the company about an urgent meeting, a lie he quickly invented. Liviana's face fell, and although Sammy felt pity, he couldn't bring himself to reveal Hamid's true reaction to her pregnancy. How would Hamid face poor Liviana? Would he stand by her or continue pursuing his old plans? The next day, Liviana was discharged from the hospital. Not once did she catch even a glimpse of Hamid's presence. It stung. But she found comfort in the support of Sammy and Hania, who had stayed by her side in the hospital room. When she finally returned home to the man she thought she loved, the doctor had advised complete bed rest and zero stress, as her pregnancy was considered delicate. Hamid's mother assigned 3 maids to assist her. Though Liviana politely declined their help at first, they insisted, and so she spent her days confined to bed while Hamid indulged himself elsewhere. Immediately after the hospital, he went straight to a bar where he drank and flirted with random women. He returned home drunk, yelling from the living room for Liviana. Though feeling weak, she forced herself to get up and tend to him. "Liviana, is that really my baby? Maybe you got pregnant by another man and now you expect me to raise your child so you can live rich like us?" he spat. Liviana recoiled, stunned. Their raised voices attracted the attention of servants, as well as Hamid's parents and Sammy. "Stop it, you spoiled brat," Hamid's father roared. "You're acting disgracefully. This is what you wanted, right?" Hamid shot back at his father. "You didn't even bother asking if I wanted it. You made me feel that you loved me." Choking back tears, Liviana pleaded, "I really believed it was real," as she showed him her engagement ring. "You proposed to me. You believed that." "Hamid," he yelled, "I only used you because I need my inheritance to get Hania back. You know I love her." More tears spilled down Liviana's cheeks. "Then what do you expect me to do about the child I'm carrying?" she asked, her voice trembling with despair. "Abort it," he replied with a demonic grin. "Do you hear yourself, you devil spawn?" Hamid's father bellowed. "You won't see a cent of my money until you change your ways and accept your responsibility." Hamid's mother tried to soothe her husband. "Dear, come, let's rest. Don't worry about this." At that moment, Sammy rushed over to help Liviana back to her bedroom. Even after lying down, tears continued to pour from her eyes. She could scarcely believe what was happening, and a swelling anger took root in her heart. "Stop crying, Liviana," Sammy pleaded gently. "It's bad for the baby. Don't think about him. We're here to help you." Who amid her sobs, Liviana confessed, "I honestly believed he loved me. I truly felt it." In her fragile state, Liviana eventually drifted off to sleep, with tears still glistening on her cheeks. Sammy silently wiped them away and pressed a tender kiss to her forehead. He felt deep sympathy for everything she was enduring, and if he could bear that burden for her, he would. He stayed by her side as she napped. When Liviana woke, she found Sammy asleep, slumped by her bedside. As soon as she stirred, he jerked awake and stood up. "Are you okay?" he asked, his eyes shifting between her face and her rounded belly. "I'm fine," she assured him. "Doesn't your neck hurt?" "No, I'm all right. Let me freshen up and then we can have breakfast together," he suggested. Liviana too got up to bathe, taking care not to overexert herself for the baby's sake. But once she stepped under the shower, her tears mingled with the running water as memories of the previous turmoil overwhelmed her. Afterward, she made a quiet resolution. When Sammy waited outside, they went to breakfast together. "I have something to tell you," she said. "I've decided I'm going back to the Philippines. If Hamid won't take responsibility for this baby, then I'll raise my child on my own." For a moment, Sammy was speechless. He clearly didn't like the idea. "Is that really what you want? Your baby will grow up without a father. Is that what you truly desire?" "What more can I do?" Liviana asked through her tears. "Her own father doesn't want her. If he won't step up, then I will," Sammy declared. "I'll be the father of this child." Liviana stared at him, half expecting him to laugh it off, but his expression was earnest. "Are you insane?" she blurted. "I'm serious. I'm not going to make decisions out of pity. I won't be a burden to you," Sammy insisted. "You deserve better." "No, you're not a burden, so don't say that," he countered. At that moment, Hamid appeared at the table without a word, refusing even a glance in Liviana's direction. He grabbed a sandwich and left, and once again, tears welled in Liviana's eyes. "Stop," Sammy said softly. "Don't waste your tears on him." His voice broke as he added, "I can't help it, maybe even the baby in my womb feels everything too." Liviana murmured through sobs. "If you've chosen to return to the Philippines, then I'll go with you," Sammy offered. "I want to be the father of that child, no matter what." "Don't worry. I'll face your family and shoulder the responsibility. I come from a poor family, after all. You're not ready to live the way I do. We have a small house, and our traditions are different," he replied, pleading. "So please, if you're only doing this out of pity—" "I can manage on my own," Liviana interrupted softly. "You're set to inherit the throne. You can't just walk away." "I don't care about wealth," Sammy countered sharply. "Besides, if Hamid wants the throne, let him have it. If you won't let me come with you, then I'll make you stay here." Liviana felt torn. She yearned to return home, to raise her baby there, and to forget Hamid's betrayal. Remaining in the mansion and seeing him every day would only deepen her wounds, and how could she possibly explain all of this to her parents? The thought of them relying on her brought fresh tears to her eyes. Meanwhile, unseen by either of them, Hamid lurked by the kitchen door, listening to Sammy and Liviana speak. He hadn't meant to explode so viciously. He had been drowning his sorrows in alcohol, much like Sammy. Now, regret and pity mingled within him. Liviana had never done anything to deserve such suffering, and though a part of him longed to comfort her, he couldn't bring himself to do so, knowing that he himself was the cause of her pain. Sammy pressed on. "I'll talk to Father about your decision, Liviana. I'm sure he'll understand if I go with you." Liviana merely shrugged, and she spent the rest of the day holed up in her room, watching TV and chatting with the maids. By evening, Sammy returned carrying a bounty of fruit and a cake adorned with the words, "Congrats, our mom-to-be." "What's with the cake?" Liviana asked, noticing how elated he looked. "Nothing. I just want to congratulate you for receiving this blessing from God," he replied, smiling, though his expression was puzzled. Liviana nodded slowly. "I'd prefer to focus on my pregnancy," Sammy continued gently. "And please, don't stress. Don't think about him. I'm here for you." He closed his eyes for a moment, as if making a silent wish while cradling the cake. "I want you to see that I'm right here beside you, ready to take care of you." "Hey, what are you saying?" Liviana asked, catching the seriousness in his voice. "I want you to know that from the moment I first saw you, something felt different. I couldn't stop thinking about you. I want to be near you, to care for you, Liviana. I think I'm falling in love with you." Liviana stood there, momentarily speechless at Sammy's confession, unsure how to respond. "You don't have to answer me right now," he added softly. "I know you're confused and still hurting, but at least give me a chance. Thank you for always understanding and taking care of me." "Sammy," Liviana replied, "but right now, I need to move on from everything." "I understand," Sammy said. "Whatever decision you make, I'll support you." They shared the food he had brought, and once they finished, Liviana decided to rest. Sammy left shortly afterward. Minutes later, her phone rang. It was her younger sibling calling. Not wanting her family to notice her sadness, she straightened up, forced on a bright smile, and answered. "Hello?" she greeted warmly. "Hi sis, how are you? It seems like you're too busy to call Mom and Dad. They keep bugging me to reach you," her sibling teased. "I'm fine, just busy, lots of things to do," Liviana replied. Suddenly, her father appeared on the screen. "Oh, you've gained weight, my daughter. You look prettier," he joked. "Well, Dad, the food's delicious here, so I guess I've put on a few pounds," she said with a laugh. Yet at the sound of her father's voice, she missed them terribly, and tears welled up in her eyes once more. "We really miss you, hun. If I could work there myself, I would, so you wouldn't have to struggle," he said. "Dad, now you're making me cry," she managed to say. "Don't worry, I can handle it," she sniffled. Then her mother appeared, playfully scolding her husband. "What are you doing, Ronaldo? Making our daughter cry? Calm down, dear. How are you, sweetheart? Your father's right. You really do look prettier these days. Must be that extra weight." Liviana's tears flowed even harder. "Mom, I miss you so much. There's nobody here to hold me when I'm hurt," she sobbed. "All right, just give me a second. I'm moving to the bedroom so we can talk properly. Your dad and siblings are making so much noise out there with the new TV. Probably the whole neighborhood can hear it," her mom joked, scratching her head as she settled somewhere quieter. "Daughter, I can sense you're carrying a burden. Even from a distance you can tell me anything. Whatever it is, I'll understand," her mother said warmly. Liviana wanted to explain, but she wasn't ready. Deep down, she still hoped Hamid would change. "No, Mom, it's nothing. I just really miss you. It's so tough being far away from all of you, and I'm really craving green mango with shrimp paste," Liviana admitted, laughing shakily. "You trickster, you sound just like a pregnant woman," her mother teased, making Liviana cough nervously as her face paled. "I'm fine here, Mom. The work isn't too hard, the food is good, and my employers are kind," Liviana said, wiping away more tears. "That's good to hear, child. Your father and I can rest easier now. But if you ever have a problem, don't be afraid to let me know. And never forget to pray. God gives us trials because He knows we can handle them," her mother advised. "Yes, Mom, take care of each other, you and Dad. I love you both so much." "They're calling me, so I have to go now," Liviana ended, and her mother hung up the call. Liviana collapsed onto the bed, wrapping her arms around herself as she finally cried in earnest. Exhausted from the torrent of tears, she soon fell into a fitful sleep. In the days that followed, Liviana and Hamid barely crossed paths. Hamid deliberately left at dawn to avoid seeing her, while Liviana, strangely yearning for his familiar scent, rose early as well. She wandered the mansion in search of any trace of him, but found nothing. Feeling utterly drained, she sat in the garden to rest. Just as she was about to leave, Hamid emerged from the parking lot, fresh from a shower and holding a cup of coffee. Instantly, Liviana hurried over and embraced him, even though part of her seethed with anger. Somehow, her unborn baby seemed to crave his presence. After a moment, Hamid gently pulled away. "Please, stay. For our baby's sake," Liviana pleaded, tears threatening to well up once again. Hamid simply stood there like a statue as she clung to him. After 3 long minutes, she reluctantly let go. With a teasing smile, he asked, "Is the baby satisfied?" "Yes," she replied softly. "Thank you for letting us hug." Liviana stepped aside and walked back into the mansion, leaving Hamid with a faint, wistful smile behind her. Inside, Hamid soon overheard Sammy shouting in irritation, "How many times have I told you not to let Liviana wander around alone? It's dangerous for her and the baby. If anything happens to her, it'll be your fault." He then yelled at a trembling maid, "I'm really sorry, sir. I'll go find her now," she stammered. "She's in the garden, safe and sound," Hamid commented coolly. "Hey, did you forget I'm her fiancé, not you? Stop overreacting. I don't care what you say." "Hamid, mind your own business," Sammy spat back. "Really, bro? I've noticed everything. I like what you want to take it. Are you that insecure with your boring life?" Hamid sneered. "No, I just want you to see that everything you have, everything you're throwing away, is worth keeping," Sammy retorted. "Like Liviana, I'll make sure she's loved and happy with me. Then you'll regret everything you did to her," he added, before turning and leaving. Hamid stood there, speechless. "Let's see," he murmured to himself. "You can't change the fact that Liviana loves me." Meanwhile, Sammy found Liviana in the living room, her face radiant with a smile she hadn't worn in days. "Wow, you seem to be in a good mood," Sammy remarked. "Yeah," she replied softly. "I got what I needed today." They chatted until lunchtime, unaware that Hamid was secretly watching them from an upstairs window. Seeing Liviana laugh in delight as she spoke with Sammy stirred a surge of jealousy in Hamid. During lunch, as Liviana and Sammy happily conversed, Hamid's presence went mostly unnoticed. Finally, he snapped irritably, "Could you please lower your voices?" "Mind your own business," Sammy shot back. Liviana ignored Hamid completely, but he grew even more annoyed watching them enjoy themselves. "It's like I'm watching a love story here," Hamid muttered under his breath, a comment that Sammy overheard. "Yeah, you're right," Sammy replied with a smirk. After lunch, Hamid was about to leave for a date with Hania when he overheard Sammy speaking with their father in the study room. "What are you saying, father? We can't let her go back alone. Her pregnancy is delicate. She needs someone to protect and care for her. Her family doesn't even know yet," Sammy argued, explaining why he should accompany Liviana to the Philippines. "The coronation will be next year," their father reminded him. "I know," Sammy said. "I'll stay with her until she gives birth, and I'll make sure to bring her back with me before the coronation," he declared confidently. "Then don't disappoint me. I'm putting my trust in you," their father said. Hamid absorbed every word as he drove to his condo. Even in her absence, he looked visibly unsettled, haunted by the memory of Liviana's laughter with Sammy and the thought that she might soon leave for home. "You look upset," Hania remarked as Hamid arrived. "What's wrong, baby?" "Nothing, just tired," he replied flatly. "Liviana's going back to the Philippines with Sammy, and that means our plans won't be fulfilled." "What? That's not fair," Hania exclaimed. "I need to do something," Hamid declared, tapping his temple as if deep in thought. "What could I possibly plan, and would I even succeed?" Meanwhile, Liviana recalled the comforting sound of her mother's voice and the memory of the embrace she had given Hamid in the garden. Even though she was furious with him, she couldn't resist his presence. Somehow it seemed her baby also craved him. Later that day, Sammy pressed on. "I'll talk to father about your decision, Liviana. I'm sure he'll understand if I go with you." Liviana simply shrugged, and for the rest of the day, she stayed in her room, watching TV and chatting with the maids. By evening, Sammy returned carrying a bounty of fruit and a cake topped with the words, "Congrats, our mom-to-be." "What's with the cake?" Liviana asked, noticing how thrilled he looked. "Nothing, I just want to congratulate you on this blessing from God," he said with a smile, though his expression held a hint of puzzlement. Liviana nodded. "I'd rather focus on my pregnancy," Sammy continued. "And I don't want you stressing. Don't think about him. I'm here for you." He closed his eyes briefly as if making a silent wish while holding the cake. "I want you to know that I'm right here beside you, ready to take care of you." "Hey, what are you saying?" Liviana asked, noticing the seriousness in his voice. "I want you to know that from the moment I first saw you, something was different. I couldn't stop thinking about you. I want to be near you, to care for you, Liviana. I think I'm falling in love with you." Liviana stood silently, caught off guard by Sammy's confession. "You don't have to answer me right now," he continued softly. "I know you're confused and hurting, but please, give me a chance. Thank you for always being there for me." "Sammy," Liviana replied, "but right now I need to move on from everything." "I understand," Sammy said gently. "Whatever decision you make, I'll support you." They shared the food he had brought, and once finished, Liviana decided to rest while Sammy left. Minutes later, her phone rang, her younger sibling calling. Not wanting her family to see her sadness, she straightened up, forced a bright smile, and answered. "Hello? Hi, sis, how are you? It seems like you're too busy to call mom and dad. They keep bugging me to reach you," her sibling teased. "I'm fine, just busy. Lots of things to do," Liviana replied. Suddenly, her father appeared on the screen. "Oh, you've gained weight, my daughter. You look prettier," he joked. "Well, Dad, the food's delicious here, so I guess I've put on a few pounds," she replied. At the sound of her father's warm voice, she missed them terribly, and fresh tears welled in her eyes. "We really miss you, hun. If I could work there myself, I would, so you wouldn't have to struggle," he said. "Dad, now you're making me cry," she managed between sniffles. "Don't worry, I can handle it," she murmured. Then her mother appeared, gently chiding her husband. "What are you doing, Ronaldo? Making our daughter cry? Calm down, dear. How are you, sweetheart? Your father's right, you really do look prettier these days. Must be that extra weight." Liviana's tears flowed even harder. "Mom, I miss you so much. There's nobody here to hold me when I'm hurt," she sobbed. "All right, just give me a second. I'm moving to the bedroom so we can talk properly. Your dad and siblings are making so much noise with the new TV. Probably the whole neighborhood can hear it," her mom joked as she settled somewhere quieter. "Daughter, I can sense you're carrying a burden. Even from a distance, you can tell me anything. Whatever it is, I'll understand," her mom said kindly. Liviana wanted to explain, but she wasn't ready. Deep down, she still held out hope that Hamid might change. "No, Mom, it's nothing. I just really miss you. It's so tough being far away from all of you, and I really crave green mango with shrimp paste, Liviana admitted, laughing shakily. You trickster, you sound just like a pregnant woman, her mom teased, making Liviana cough nervously as her face paled. I'm fine here, Mom. The work isn't too hard, the food is good, and my employers are kind, Liviana said, wiping away more tears. That's good to hear, child. Your father and I can rest easier now. But if you ever have a problem, don't hesitate to let me know, and never forget to pray. God gives us trials because He knows we can handle them, her mom advised. Yes, Mom, take care of each other, you and Dad. I love you both so much. They're calling me now, so I have to go, Liviana said, and her mom gently ended the call. Later, Liviana collapsed onto her bed, hugging herself and finally crying in earnest. Worn out from the endless tears, she drifted off to sleep. In the following days, Liviana and Hamid rarely encountered one another. Hamid deliberately left at dawn so he wouldn't have to see her, while Liviana, inexplicably yearning for his presence, woke early and roamed the mansion in hopes of catching a glimpse of him, but found not a trace. Feeling utterly exhausted, she eventually sat in the garden to rest. Just as she was about to leave, Hamid emerged from the parking lot, freshly showered and holding a cup of coffee. Instantly, Liviana rushed over and hugged him. Despite a part of her still burning with anger, her unborn baby seemed to demand his presence. After a while, Hamid pulled away. Please, stay. For our baby's sake, Liviana pleaded, tears threatening to form once more. Hamid simply stood there like a statue as she clung to him. After 3 long minutes, she reluctantly let go. Is the baby satisfied? He asked, forcing back a smile. Yes, she replied softly. Thank you for letting us hug. With that, Liviana stepped aside and walked back into the mansion, leaving Hamid with a faint, wistful smile lingering on his lips. Inside, Hamid overheard Sammy shouting in annoyance. How many times have I told you not to let Liviana wander around alone? It's dangerous for her and the baby. If anything happens to her, it'll be on you. He then scolded a trembling maid who stammered, I'm really sorry, sir. I'll go find her now. She's in the garden, safe and sound, Hamid remarked coolly. Hey, did you forget I'm her fiancé, not you? Stop overreacting. I don't care what you say. Hamid, mind your own business, Sammy snapped back. Really, bro? I've noticed everything. I like what you want to take it. Are you that insecure with your boring life? Hamid sneered. No, I just want you to see that everything you have, everything you're throwing away, is worth keeping, Sammy retorted. I'll make sure Liviana is loved and happy with me, then you'll regret everything you did to her, he added, before storming off. Hamid stood speechless for a moment. Let's see, he murmured to himself. You can't change the fact that Liviana loves me. Meanwhile, Sammy found Liviana in the living room, her face lit with a radiant smile she hadn't worn in days. Wow, you seem to be in a good mood, Sammy said. Yeah, she replied quietly. I got what I needed today. They chatted until lunchtime, unaware that Hamid was secretly watching them from an upstairs window. Seeing Liviana laugh and delight as she talked with Sammy filled Hamid with a surge of jealousy. During lunch, while Liviana and Sammy happily conversed, Hamid finally snapped, Could you please lower your voices? Mind your own business, Sammy retorted sharply. Liviana ignored Hamid entirely. The more she saw them enjoying themselves, the more Hamid's annoyance grew. It's like I'm watching a love story here, he muttered under his breath, a comment that Sammy overheard. Yay, you're right, Sammy replied with a smirk. After lunch, Hamid was about to leave for a date with Hania when he overheard Sammy speaking in the study with their father. What are you saying, father? We can't let her go back alone. Her pregnancy is delicate and she needs someone to protect and care for her. Her family doesn't even know yet, Sammy reasoned, arguing why he should accompany Liviana to the Philippines. The coronation is next year, their father reminded him. I know, Sammy said. I'll stay with her until she gives birth, and I'll bring her back with me before the coronation, he declared confidently. Then don't disappoint me, I'm putting my trust in you, their father said. Hamid absorbed every word as he drove to his condo, unsettled by the thought that Liviana might soon leave for home with Sammy. The image of her laughter and happiness with him haunted him. You look upset, Hania remarked when she saw him. What's wrong, baby? Nothing, just tired, he replied flatly. Liviana's going back to the Philippines with Sammy, and that means our plans won't be fulfilled. What? That's not fair, Hania exclaimed. I need to do something, Hamid declared, tapping his temple in deep thought. What could I possibly plan? And would it even work? Meanwhile, Liviana recalled the comforting sound of her mother's voice and the memory of the garden embrace with Hamid. Despite her anger, she couldn't deny that a part of her, and perhaps even her baby, still longed for his presence. Caught between heartbreak and hope, Liviana faced an uncertain future, one that would force her to choose between a painful past and a new beginning, far away from the mansion that held so many memories. The next day, Hamid rose early and waited outside Liviana's door to set his next phase in motion. Leaning casually against the wall near her room, he was startled when she stepped out, nearly jumping in surprise. Oops, didn't mean to startle you, are you okay? He asked. I'm fine, what are you doing here? She snapped. I was actually waiting for you. Remember how you asked for a hug yesterday? Maybe you need one today, for the baby's sake, he said, scratching his head as if feeling a bit shy. No, I don't need a hug today, she replied curtly, but you can join me for breakfast if you'd like. Sure, Hamid agreed with a broad smile, secretly thinking how easy it was to fool her. Liviana found his behavior odd. She was well aware of his insincere attitude toward the baby, yet a part of her still hoped he might change, for the sake of their child. At breakfast they spoke little. Hamid simply helped himself to food and then carefully placed a plate before her. Finally, he broke the silence. Do you want to go to the park or maybe shop for baby stuff or just get some fresh air? No, I have a prenatal checkup today, Liviana replied. After that, I'll probably stop by the mall for some unripe mango. Sensing her attempt to maintain distance, Hamid asked, Can I come along? Before he could continue, Sammy appeared behind Liviana and interjected firmly, No, I'll be the one going with her. Hamid raised an eyebrow. And why are you interfering in our conversation? Are you the father? He added sarcastically, narrowing his eyes. Funny to hear that from you, Sammy shot back, glaring at Hamid. Hey, stop it. Both of you can come if you want, Liviana cut in, exasperated. Just please, don't fight in front of me. You're stressing me out, the pregnant woman snapped. Fine, the brothers muttered in unison before Hamid stormed off. Sammy then sat down next to Liviana. Are you sure you're okay if he tags along? He asked, concern evident in his tone. She shrugged. You'll be there to protect me, right? Dressed in a simple white outfit that highlighted her natural glow, Liviana appeared barely 2 months pregnant, her condition not yet obvious to onlookers. As she descended the stairs, she noticed both men waiting on the sofa. They rose eagerly at the sight of her, practically racing each other to meet her at the bottom step. A small smile tugged at Liviana's lips. Who would have guessed she'd end up in a situation where 2 princes were literally vying for her attention? As she walked down, a brief flush of excitement mixed with absurdity washed over her, so much so that she suddenly froze halfway down the stairs. What's wrong? Sammy hurried up, gently placing his hands on her shoulders. The next day, Hamid got up early and waited outside Liviana's door to begin the next phase of his plan. Leaning casually against the wall near her room, he was startled when she stepped out, nearly jumping in surprise. Oops, didn't mean to startle you, are you okay? He asked. I'm fine. What are you doing here? She snapped. I was actually waiting for you. Remember how you asked for a hug yesterday? Maybe you need one today. For the baby's sake, he said, scratching his head as if feeling a bit shy. No, I don't need a hug today, she replied curtly, but you can join me for breakfast if you'd like. Sure, Hamid agreed with a broad smile, secretly thinking how easy it was to fool her. Liviana found his behavior odd. She knew well how he felt about the baby and how insincere he could be, yet a part of her still hoped he might truly change, for the sake of their child. At breakfast they barely spoke. Hamid simply helped himself to food and carefully placed a plate in front of her. Finally, he broke the silence. Do you want to go to the park, or maybe shop for baby stuff, or just get some fresh air? No, I have a prenatal checkup today, Liviana replied. After that, I'll probably stop by the mall for some unripe mango. Sensing her effort to keep her distance, Hamid asked, Can I come along? Before he could continue, Sammy appeared behind Liviana and interjected firmly, No, I'll be the one going with her. Hamid raised an eyebrow. And why are you interfering in our conversation? Are you the father? He added sarcastically, narrowing his eyes. Funny to hear that from you, Sammy shot back, glaring at Hamid. Hey, stop it. Both of you can come if you want, Liviana cut in, exasperated. Just please, don't fight in front of me. You're stressing me out, the pregnant woman snapped. Fine, the brothers muttered in unison, and Hamid stormed off. Sammy then sat down next to Liviana. Are you sure you're okay if he tags along? He asked, concern evident in his tone. She shrugged. You'll be there to protect me, right? Dressed in a simple white outfit that highlighted her natural glow, Liviana looked barely 2 months pregnant, her condition not yet obvious to most. As she descended the stairs, she noticed both men waiting on the sofa. They rose eagerly at the sight of her, practically racing each other to meet her at the bottom step. A small smile tugged at her lips. Who would have guessed she'd end up in a situation where 2 princes literally waited for her? As she walked down, she allowed herself a brief moment of excitement at the absurdity of it all, so much so that she suddenly froze halfway down the stairs. What's wrong? Sammy hurried over, gently placing his hands on her shoulders. Nothing, she stammered. I just felt the baby move, she offered weakly, knowing the baby was far too tiny to stir. All right, let's go, Sammy said, taking her hand and guiding her the rest of the way. The 3 of them cramped into one car. A tight squeeze indeed. Liviana found herself wedged in the middle seat, flanked by a prince on each side. Why did you have to join us? Sammy demanded of Hamid. You could have driven another car. We look like sardines. At the hospital, the doctor performed an ultrasound. The baby is fine, Mommy. The heartbeat is normal, she announced. Both Sammy and Hamid leaned in, their eyes fixed on the monitor in amazement. I'll prescribe you some vitamins. Dad, come to my office, please, the doctor said. Hamid started to follow, but the doctor called out, Daddy, Sammy, please come. I need to discuss something with you. Confused, Hamid halted as Sammy entered the office, almost as if assuming the role of father. Okay, Daddy, the doctor began. These vitamins will be good for both mother and baby. Be sure to take care of her. Although she's healthy, her pregnancy is a bit delicate. Are you two still having sexual intercourse? Sammy's face went blank. It's okay, Daddy. Don't be shy. It's normal, the doctor continued. Just be gentle. Sammy turned crimson and nodded helplessly, feeling foolish. Once the appointment concluded, Sammy rejoined Hamid and Liviana outside. You look like you've seen a ghost. You okay? Liviana asked, noticing his dazed expression. I'm fine. I'm just hungry, Sammy mumbled. Let's eat and then get you the stuff you need, Hamid suggested. The 3 of them squashed back into the car and drove off. After grabbing a bite to eat, Liviana headed to the department store for her prized, unripe mangoes, trailed by her 2 shadows. She found the errand exhausting. Even the simplest tasks sparked bickering between the brothers, down to who got to carry her shopping bags. Could you 2 act like adults? This is so stressful, Liviana hissed as they quarreled over who should load the purchases into the car. In exasperation, she ended up sitting in the front seat alone, forcing the men to squeeze into the back. If only I knew the way home, I would have ridden on my own to avoid playing babysitter to 2 grown men. This is never happening again, I swear, Liviana muttered. Hearing whispered barbs from the back, Sammy retorted, Me neither. I refuse to do anything like this again. Look who's talking. You're the— Hamid snapped. I'm her fiancé. I'm the father. You're just intruding like some bodyguard. I'm making sure you don't hurt her again. I don't recall you being her guardian, Hamid taunted. Stop it, Liviana, she shouted, or I'm getting out. The pair fell silent until they reached the mansion. As they entered, Hania came sprinting toward them. Grabbing Hamid's arm, she tried kissing him passionately. Oh my God, baby, I've been waiting forever. Where were you? She exclaimed in a playful, sulky tone. I took you for a prenatal checkup, Hamid replied coolly, then roughly pulled Hania toward a car. He barely noticed her stumbling as she protested his rough handling. Once inside the car, Hania pouted. What's wrong with you? You're hurting me. What's wrong with you? Hania snapped back. I told you yesterday we need to act discreetly, and then you show up here in front of everyone hugging and kissing me like it's nothing. Are you kidding me? He glared at her. Realizing her mistake, Hania quickly apologized. Meanwhile, Liviana's heart burned with jealousy as she watched Hania cling to Hamid and kiss him on the lip. Later, returning to her room with Sammy, Liviana claimed she needed a shower, hoping to escape the mess. Once under the water, she allowed the tears to flow freely. She nearly wanted to smash a vase over Hania's head, yet felt utterly powerless. Why does it hurt so much? Do I even have the right to be angry? What will I decide next? Should I give up on Hamid for good, or give Sammy's love a chance? She wondered aloud, her voice choked with emotion. Later still, Liviana's mind replayed flashbacks of her ultrasound appointment, the way both men had been transfixed by the images on the monitor and the awkward moment when the doctor had asked Sammy about their intimacy. She couldn't shake the painful memory of Hania throwing herself at Hamid. Staring at her reflection in the mirror, she whispered to herself, "Liviana, stop hoping for that jerk. He'll hurt you over and over." Tears fell, and then, with a bitter laugh, she vowed, "But I won't give up. I won't stop until I win him over for the sake of this child." The next morning, Hamid once again stood outside her door leaning against the wall. Liviana walked right past him, determined to ignore him. Suddenly, he reached out from behind and hugged her. She froze. "Wait, I think I need this," he murmured, burying his face against her shoulder. "I ended our relationship," he added in a low voice, clearly meaning he'd broken things off with Hania. Liviana knew this was part of his game, but deep down, she told herself that if it benefited her baby, it was worth playing along. She turned to face him and gave him a tight hug. Hamid stood there, stunned. Even after all he'd put her through, she was the one offering comfort. If it hurt you to cause her pain, how much more must she be hurting, he realized, guilt heavy in his voice. Yet, unable to resist, he hugged her back. Liviana let out a muffled shriek as he squeezed her. "Hey, you're squashing the baby," she scolded. Hania laughed and released her, then gently placed a hand on her belly. The touch made her feel ticklish, and she swatted his hand away. The realization that Hania was no longer in Hania's life filled her with hope and courage. The storm has only just begun, and the game of power is about to become more dangerous than ever before. Prepare yourself for part 2, where truths will be revealed, justice will be pursued, and the battle for love and redemption will reach its climax. Did you enjoy this story? If so, drop a like and leave a kind comment to encourage us. Your support means the world. And don't forget, we love you. To be continued.